There have been a few questions from technicians like you. In response, an uptraining document was sent out in late June that should have been provided to you by your supervisor. This should help answer your questions and avoid you being delayed while installing or servicing a system. To be sure you have the latest information, let's take a look at these issues starting on page 1. The HD receiver shows MRV active, however, the HD DVR isn't seen on the playlist. The sequence you follow while installing whole home DVR can ensure smooth, trouble-free activation.